Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to join the shadows. Stay brave, if you dare.
On the morning of June 7th, 1992, the sun rose over Springfield, Missouri, casting its light on a mystery that would haunt the town for decades. When friends arrived at 1717 East Delmar Street to pick up Suzanne Streeter and Stacy McCall after a graduation party, they found the house silent. The front door was unlocked. Inside, time seemed to have stopped. A half-drunk cup of coffee sat on the counter, its contents long since evaporated. Cigarettes rested in an ashtray, their filters bearing faint lipstick marks. The television murmured softly to an empty living room. 3 purses belonging to Suzanne, Stacy, and Suzanne's mother, Cheryl Levitt, were lined up neatly by the couch, wallets and keys untouched. But the women were gone. The last person to see them was a neighbour, who reported hearing a scream around 2:30 a.m, but dismissed it as late-night revelry. Investigators found no signs of forced entry, no blood, no struggle, just an eerie absence where 3 lives had once been. The only anomaly? The porch light, which had been unscrewed and removed, as if someone had worked in darkness. Police initially suspected a kidnapping, but no ransom demands ever came. Some theorized a connection to local criminals, as Cheryl had recently complained about suspicious men lurking near her home. Others whispered about a serial killer operating in the Midwest, though no evidence linked the case to any known predator. Years passed. Leads dried up. The house was demolished, erasing the last physical remnant of that night. Yet the questions remain. Who took the Springfield 3? And why did they leave behind everything? Money, IDs, even a lit cigarette, as if the women had simply stepped out for air and never returned. The security footage is clear. Brian Schaffer, a 27-year-old medical student, walked into the ugly Tuna Saloona on April 1st, 2006. He was laughing, his Ohio State Buckeyes cap tilted slightly to the side. He never walked out. That night, Brian had gone out with friends to celebrate the start of spring break. Around 1:30 a.m, he briefly argued with his girlfriend over the phone, then vanished. When his friends couldn't find him, they assumed he'd gone home. But Brian never made it back to his apartment. Police scoured every frame of surveillance footage. The cameras covered every exit. Front door, back door, fire escapes. Brian never appeared on any of them. He was inside the bar one moment, and then gone. Detectives considered every possibility. Had he slipped out unnoticed during a shift change? Unlikely. The bar's layout made it nearly impossible. Had he fallen into a construction zone behind the building? No evidence supported it. Some suggested he'd staged his own disappearance, but his family insisted he had no reason to flee. His credit cards, bank accounts, and passport were never touched. Then came the strangest twist. 2 years later, Brian's father, Randy, died in a freak accident, falling from a ladder while cleaning gutters. Some saw it as a cruel coincidence. Others wondered if the tragedies were connected. To this day, Brian's case remains one of the most baffling missing person stories in modern history. How does a man enter a bar and never leave? If he's dead, where is his body? If he's alive, where has he been hiding for nearly 2 decades? April 1st, 2014 began as an adventure for Chris Kremers and Lisanne Froon, 2 Dutch students backpacking through Panama. They set out on the El Pianista Trail, a winding path through lush rainforest leading to a breathtaking summit. They never came back. Days later, their backpack was found by a local woman near a riverbank. Inside, their belongings were dry and meticulously arranged. Phones, cash, Lisanne's bras folded neatly. The camera held photos of their hike, smiling selfies, sun-dappled trails. Then the images took a dark turn. 90 photos, all taken in the dead of night over several hours, showed only blackness. The flash illuminated brief fragmented glimpses. A rock, a tree branch, Chris's hair matted with what looked like blood. One photo appeared to show a piece of paper, possibly a distress signal. Even more unsettling were the phone records. For days after their disappearance, someone had attempted to call emergency services, but never spoke. The phones were powered on and off, as if conserving battery. The final attempt came on April 11th, 10 days after they vanished. Then silence. Searchers later found scattered bones, a pelvis, a foot still inside a boot. Forensic analysis suggested the remains had been placed there, not decomposed naturally. Had the girls gotten lost and succumbed to the elements, or had someone, or something, hunted them? The jungle keeps its secrets. To this day, no one knows what truly happened to Chris and Lisanne. Were their final moments spent in terror, waiting for rescue that never came? Or did the darkness of the rainforest hide something far worse? The coastal city of Varna, Bulgaria, was alive with summer energy on July 8, 2014, when 28-year-old German tourist Lars Mittank made a desperate run that would become one of Europe's most haunting disappearances. What began as a carefree vacation with friends took a sinister turn after a seemingly minor incident at a local sports bar near their hotel. According to witnesses, Lars had gotten into a physical altercation with another patron. Though the fight was broken up quickly, Lars became increasingly paranoid in the following days, insisting to his friends that he was being followed. His behaviour grew more erratic. He stopped sleeping, refused to eat, and claimed his hotel room was bugged. When his friends suggested seeing a doctor, Lars visited a local clinic where he was prescribed antibiotics for an ear injury. But instead of returning to the hotel, he went straight to the airport. The last known footage of Lars shows him at Varna Airport, behaving strangely. He can be seen whispering frantically into his phone before suddenly abandoning his luggage and sprinting through a restricted area. In a sequence that chills investigators to this day, the athletic young man is seen vaulting over a security fence and disappearing into the dense woodland surrounding the airport. A massive search operation involving helicopters, drones, and ground teams found no trace. Even more puzzling, Lars left behind his passport, money, medications, and all his belongings. His phone was never used again. Local authorities initially suspected mental health crisis or drug involvement, but no evidence supported these theories. 8 years later, the case remains open. Some believe Lars may have been caught up in criminal activity, possibly as an unwilling drug mule. Others suggest he suffered a psychotic break triggered by the antibiotics. The most disturbing possibility? That Lars Mittank is still alive somewhere, living in hiding, forever running from whatever terror drove him to flee into that summer night. The disappearance of 5 young men in the rugged Sierra Nevada mountains remains one of America's most perplexing missing persons cases. On the evening of February 24th, 1978, Gary Mathias, Jack Hewitt, Ted Wire, Bill Sterling, and Jack Madruga, all friends with mild intellectual disabilities, set out from Yuba City, California, to watch a college basketball game in Chico. What happened next defies all logical explanation. Instead of returning home after the game, their 1969 Mercury Montego was found the next morning, abandoned on a remote Forest Service road near Oroville, nearly 70 miles in the wrong direction. The car was in working condition, with a full tank of gas, its battery still charged. Footprints in the snow showed all 5 men had walked away from the vehicle together. For 4 months, there was no sign of the missing men until a Forest Service worker stumbled upon a shocking discovery. A locked Forest Service trailer nearly 20 miles from the abandoned car. Inside were the bodies of 4 men, positioned as if they had been waiting for rescue. Forensic analysis revealed Ted Wire had survived for nearly 2 months after their disappearance, yet made no attempt to leave the trailer stocked with food and supplies. The 5th man, Gary Mathias, was never found. Even more baffling was the condition of the trailer. The men had access to blankets, food, and a working stove, yet seemed to have died of exposure. Their abandoned car contained jackets they inexplicably didn't take with them. To this day, No one understands why these 5 men drove into the mountains, why they left their working vehicle, or what kept them from surviving in the trailer. The case remains a disturbing enigma of human behaviour under duress. The small town of Waterville, Maine was shaken to its core on December 17, 2011, when 20-month-old Ayla Reynolds vanished from her father's home on Violette Avenue. What began as a routine bedtime turned into one of New England's most intensive missing child investigations when the toddler was reported missing the following morning. The scene inside the home raised immediate red flags. Investigators found a single spot of Ayla's blood near the front door, along with evidence that someone had attempted to clean the area. Cadaver dogs signaled the presence of human remains in the basement, though no body was found. Most disturbingly, Ayla's arm cast, which she needed for a recent injury, was left behind in the home. As the investigation unfolded, conflicting stories emerged from the adults in Ayla's life. Her father, Justin DiPietro, claimed he last saw Ayla when he put her to bed at 8 p.m. However, forensic evidence suggested a violent incident had occurred in the home that night. Despite one of Maine's largest ever search operations and over 100 law enforcement personnel working the case, no trace of the toddler was ever found. The nightmare began on June 5, 2014, when Derek Broadus stepped outside his new $1.3 million home to check the mail. Among the bills and advertisements was a cream-coloured envelope with elegant cursive handwriting that simply read, "The new owner." The letter inside would unravel their lives. "Dearest new neighbour," it began, the words dripping with sinister familiarity. "Welcome to the house you've worked so hard for. 657. Boulevard has been the subject of my family's watch for decades. I am pleased to inform you that your children have been chosen for the watching." Derek's hands trembled as he read passages that described intimate details of their move-in process. "I was so happy to see your young daughter carrying her stuffed unicorn up the walkway, and your son's blue baseball cap looks just like the one worn by the boy who lived there before." The letter was signed simply, "The Watcher." Over the next 3 weeks, 4 more letters arrived, each more disturbing than the last. The second letter contained a detailed hand-drawn map of the property, with certain rooms marked with ominous X's. The third mentioned the children by name, names the Broaduses had never made public. The fourth arrived the day after they installed security cameras, reading, "The cameras won't help you, I'm already inside." The final letter contained the most bone-chilling passage of all. "Do you know what lies beneath the floorboards of the master bedroom? The last family didn't find them until it was too late. Ask the realtor about the missing dog from 1992. Ask about the red stains that wouldn't come out of the basement concrete." Police investigations revealed terrifying truths about the house's history. The previous owners had indeed reported a family dog disappearing without trace in 1992. Workers replacing the flooring in 2001 found strange symbols carved into the subfloor. Most disturbing of all, records showed an unusually high number of children had lived and mysteriously died in the house since its construction in 1905. The Broadus family fled after just 18 days, abandoning most of their possessions. Subsequent owners reported continuing phenomena: letters appearing inside locked drawers, children's laughter from empty rooms, and the persistent feeling of being watched from the third-floor windows where no one stood. To this day, no one has identified the Watcher. Handwriting experts confirm all letters were written by the same person, but forensic analysis yielded no matches. Paranormal investigators claim the house responds to questions with 3 distinct knocks, always at 3:33 a.m. The current owners have reportedly hired a live-in priest, yet the letters still occasionally appear, now simply stating, "Still watching." The first documented encounter occurred on November 8, 1998, when night shift worker Robert Thompson pulled into a rest stop near Cannock Chase at 2:17 a.m. In his police statement, he described seeing 2 children, a boy and girl no older than 10, standing motionless by the tree line, They wore clothes that looked wrong, Thompson recounted, like something from an old photograph. The girl had on a pinafore dress, the boy short trousers and suspenders. But their faces, God help me, their eyes were completely black. No whites, no irises, just endless black voids. When Thompson asked if they needed help, the children approached his car in perfect unison. "Our car broke down the road," they said simultaneously, their voices carrying an unnatural echo. "Can we use your phone?" As they reached his window, Thompson noticed their skin had a waxy, almost plastic quality, and their breath smelled faintly of rotting leaves. What happened next has become the hallmark of all black-eyed children encounters. Thompson reported an overwhelming sense of dread and the sudden inability to move as the girl placed her hand on his door handle. "You have to let us in," they chanted. "You have to let us in." Only when his car stereo suddenly blasted static at full volume did the spell break, allowing Thompson to speed away. Since that night, over 37 similar encounters have been documented in the Cannock Chase area. The children always appear in pairs, always between midnight and 3 a.m, and always make the same request to be let inside homes or vehicles. Those who have made the mistake of allowing them in either disappear completely or are found days later, babbling about the old ones and the tunnels beneath the woods. Forensic analysis of the few physical traces left behind reveals disturbing anomalies. Footprints often show the children were either barefoot or wearing leather shoes decades out of production. Thermal imaging captures their body temperature at precisely 13 degrees Celsius, 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Most chillingly, audio recordings of their voices contain subsonic frequencies that induce panic attacks in laboratory animals.